We're going to give them just maybe one more minute before we get started. Well, welcome, everybody.
Sorry. Okay, so it's 11:35 and I think we can get started. Welcome to our session 2. The presenters are Susan, and we also have Jose, and do we have also, I think, Teresa somewhere maybe. Yeah. So they're going to talk about the best pedagogy practices. DACC Library presents the new faculty support portal. Very, very important resource. We shall manage this session with Daniel. So thank you for coming and welcome, Susan. Your floor.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Susan Botley, and I am one of the instructional librarians for DACC. I work at Espina campus, and I'm here with my colleague, Jose Aranda. I'd let him go ahead, Jose, and you can introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jose. I'm at the East Mesa Library. Thank you.
Today, we are going to introduce you to a new resource that we have just created with the library to support faculty. We are a student-centered library, obviously, because that's the mission of DACC. But we feel that there are a lot of our resources and services that are scattered throughout our what we do, and we have brought them all together in one place, sort of a one-stop shopping where you can come and you can see what resources and services we have available, and possibly start a dialogue on how we can help you support your students in your classes. So I am going to walk you through the website, the portal, and then in a little bit, Jose is going to talk about an assignment template that shows you where you can insert the library services into various things regarding the critical thinking skills that are needed in the Gen Ed, and actually all classes, but specifically for the Gen Ed. So this is the website that we have created. It is a research guide, and we will be able to put in the chat at a later date the link to the portal, so you can visit it on your own. You can also get to it through the library website, the homepage, and go to research guides and look for faculty portal. So we have homepage. These are our two main libraries, but we have two presences on our satellite campuses, Gadsden and Sunland Park. It's just the basic information about what our mission is. And a lot of this is also on the library website, but sometimes a lot of it is not easily discoverable. So we wanted to put it on a one place where you could come and look through and pick and choose what you might need, get there really easily. We have services and forms to support those services. We have library instruction, which is a classroom visit and a library tour. We can create a research guide, and I'll talk a little bit more about those later for your class. We do talk a little bit about copyright restrictions, because if you are placing a book on reserve or requesting a book or article to be included in your class, there are some copyright restrictions as an educational institute that we have to abide by. We also give you the opportunity to recommend an item for purchase if you think it will support your class and things like that. The forms, all of these are links to sections within this homepage. And as you can see, there are links within each section. And I'm not going to read them to you at this point in time. You can go back. They are pretty much, like I said, what is already on the website, just all consolidated into one area, so you don't have to be hopping around. We also have created an FAQ, a frequently asked questions research guide. And this is a link that will take you there. And there's standard questions that students might ask about the library, or you as a faculty member might ask about the library. I do want to point out that at any point in time during our open hours, you can chat with us through this link here, which is opens up the chat little applet that we have. You can email us your questions. You can also call us at either one of the main campuses that we have librarians at. We encourage you to dialogue with us if you have any questions about this site or any services or resources that we might be able to provide you and your students. We have created several pages within this research guide. Two of them focus on some of the gen ed essential skills, critical thinking and information literacy. Those are the two areas that librarians are especially knowledgeable in. I would hesitate to say we are experts, but this is the area, our content area, that we really work hard at learning more information about and being able to help you and your students. So, and then we have one on the research guides that we have created that might be useful for you and your students. We have a list of presentations. Then we have some quick reference guides, how to do specific things that are related to you and your class. And finally, we've created a page with professional development resources that you might find useful. So I'm going to start with the critical thinking, give you a little bit of an overview of the page, and then Jose is going to jump in and talk about the template that we have created. It's just, this is the first thing we started with this, and we hope to have more, and we welcome any feedback on it to see if there are areas we might have missed or areas that don't relate to the classroom that you think need to be modified. So our critical thinking page talks about the essential skills that are given to us from the New Mexico Higher Ed Department. This is just directly copied from that. And then what we've done is we've broken down those skills, and we have given you some examples of assignments that would go ahead and hone those skills for the students. And then we have identified what the library expertise is in regard to these types of assignments and this skill. So this is just a handy chart. If you are doing an assignment, like let's say you decided to do an annotated bibliography, that falls usually under as evidence evaluation. It can also fall into acquisition, but it's mainly in the evaluation because the students are evaluating sources to put them into their annotated bibliography. And we can provide tools to help evaluate the source and the author. We can talk about fake news, and we can help students identify resource bias. And so we have put together a list of critical thinking resources here. Books, either available in print or online. And then Jose has done a presentation earlier this year on sharpening your critical thinking skills, which is student focused. And then the one that happens this coming month is probably going to be more faculty focused. So these presentations are available for you to embed or to send students to by putting in a link and things like that. But the really nice part of this is the example of a research assignment. And I'm going to turn the presentation over to Jose now to talk about a little bit about what we've created and how it can help. Jose, would you like me to pull up the actual form? Okay.
Or it's not linkable there?
Yeah.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. It's almost noon. This, what we're seeing here, this template, has been a work in progress, and I believe it will continue to be a work in progress. It is meant to do a couple things. It's to give instructors a clear place, an idea of how to implement some of the things that the library provides in terms of both services or resources that cover those main areas that Susan just briefly or previously mentioned that are important for the state, for the higher ed, for all those agencies, for accreditation. So I think it's handy for instructors to be able to look at this and focus. Can you scroll down a bit? I thought. So this handout is broken up into those 4 categories you saw in the previous slide that the higher ed or the Common Core are asking everyone, but more specifically the gen ed instructors to focus on. So I'm not going to go through all these details, just I want to focus on a couple, but the way we've done this is that, so for example, number 1, problem setting. That's one of the major areas. We've broken that down as much as we thought we could, but I'm sure there's still some work that we can do, especially with your input, that we feel covers some of these bases. So on the left-hand side of the box or the chart there, you see what we attempt to provide in terms of what you would normally see in a learning outcome for students, right? The skills that they should be able to complete. That's what you see on the left-hand side, and those are not set in stone. Those could be those are flexible. Those could be adjusted for any instructor, any topic, any course. And on the right-hand side is where we've selected some, not all. Again, it would be very extensive if we selected all, but some of the things that we think provide relevant support for that learning objective. So you may see things like instructional librarian can provide this service, and that is very general. We can do it in person, we can do it over the phone, we can do it through email, we can do it, I think you understand, right? So the librarian is available in whatever format or modality is preferred. But we also have these other things that Susan already mentioned, right? We have these presentations we've been having now for almost 2 years, and they're recorded. We have handouts, and we have like this faculty portal research guide, because it is a research guide. It's just a label we have in the library, but it's a website, right? Where all the relevant resources that we recommend are there. So it makes for convenience, right? So that's how we approach this. It's not an actual assignment. It's more of a template that asks the instructor, or provides, better said, it provides for the instructor where the areas where we think we fit in perfectly, and there are many. So like I said, I'm not going to go through all of them, but our objective is to make this as simple as possible for our users, our instructors. So any feedback would be appreciated. Go to number 3. So critical thinking is very important. In fact, I think it is next to literacy, which is a requirement, in my opinion, probably the most important skill our students leave us with, should leave us with, I should say that. But what is it? So before I go into that, we think 3 and 4 provide a pretty good foundation for what critical thinking is. And so if you're familiar with librarians or library services, they're always, whoa, no echo there. We're always emphasizing to evaluate, search credible resources, evaluate them, make sure that your authority, all these things for the student. But these 2, 3, and 4, I really think are the meat and potatoes of critical thinking. So I'm sorry, 3. Yeah, go to 3. I'm sorry, 3 and 4. So we have 2 3s. So yeah. So
Yeah, we do have 2 3s. My
Okay.
apologies.
So the first 3, evidence yeah, leave it like that. That'd be better. Evidence evaluation. I think it's especially now more than ever very crucial for our students to learn how to trust any information they receive, whether it be in text, online, on TV, or in person, whatever. I think being a critical thinker requires us to constantly evaluate what it is we're hearing. And so here's a couple of learning objectives we wrote down here, right? So students determine and evaluate who is responsible for the content produced. I think this is a big step. So much is taken for granted that people are easily fooled into thinking because they watch this channel or because they follow this person on Twitter or because, you know what I'm saying, that it's got to be true. And so I think we cannot overlook this step. And so I encourage our faculty to think creatively of how we can get our students to practice this skill of how do you evaluate the evidence, the information that you're receiving in whatever format. Now, we're biased in the library world, right? Because we have a collection. That's why. And we stand by our collection and we feel most of what's in our collection is credible. So there's one, but the big challenge is that, I think we're underutilized and the internet has taken over and you have your Circes and your Alexas and your Google's telling you whatever it is you want to know. And that's it. So no, I think this is an important step in teaching our students on how they can determine and evaluate who is responsible for the information that's produced. So that's the first one. And we have there on the right how we can help. And then the second one, why it's produced. What are the intentions? Those are 2 big ones. But also the second one, B, factuals. It sounds elementary, right? Fact and opinion. But I think the difference has blurred for many of our students, especially those of us that are older. I think we remember how we used to do research. We remember how we used to get our information. We're a little bit more cynical, critical, etc. right? But for our students today, this is my opinion that the lines have blurred between facts and opinion, and it's become harder for them to distinguish. So that is another important part of number 3 is allowing the practice of our students to understand between fact and opinion. Actually, that's a different step, but also knowing that there is such a thing such as misinformation and disinformation. So misinformation is just, oops, I forgot, my bad, it's a mistake, I didn't mean to do that. Disinformation is what we're seeing out of Russia right now in Ukraine. So there has been a lot of current events in the last couple of years since the pandemic that I have just been glued to the news, because it's not just only interesting, it's actually sad, but it's also the arenas is perfect for us to practice these things, to be critical, to analyze, to question. And so this is the main objective of this step here of evaluating the evidence. Laying the argument is another step there. I think being a critical thinker means you have an opinion, but that opinion should be based on facts. And that is the goal that we should aim when teaching our students. It's okay to have opinions, but just make sure you have your facts straight. So we have a part here that says, how do you lay out an argument? And like Susan said, we're not experts. Some of you may be. So we welcome any feedback, any input, but I think it's important for our students to know that your opinions value. We want you to have opinions, but just make sure they're based on fact, and just make sure that you're aware of all these other factors, right, that I've already mentioned. So before I go on to number 4, or what should be number 4, are there any questions? Any comments? I see none, I hear none. So the second number 3, what should be number 4, I really think is the heart of critical thinking, right? The reasoning and the conclusion. So how do you integrate the evidence? And I think that's what's missing. A lot of students sometimes get confused with the amount of resources they have to use to research their topic, but sometimes they forget to use them in their writing. So we really need to emphasize this fact. So we don't want them wasting time accessing and using material and resources that are either not good or supportive of their argument, or that, even worse, they do not use. So we send that message by telling them, you must use the evidence you found, quote it, paraphrase it, include it with parentheses, whatever way you want, but it needs to be there present, because it shows that you've done the research and that you're basing your conclusions or your reasoning thinking on them. We don't want them just thinking out of emotion. We don't want them thinking just out of what others have told them or what they've been exposed to. We want to solidify this process, right? Make it more concrete. So use the evidence you found in your assignment. So that's integrating the resources. And we've done a couple presentations on that. The next one, B, I have here editorial judgments, values, bias. This is not, everything on this template is not take it all or nothing. You take whatever you want. So some of you may already have assignments, projects that deal with this type of thing. You want to solicit from our students this type of reaction. We have in the library lots of editorial, and along with teaching our students between fact and opinion, we also need to teach them between what is an editorial, a judgment, someone's opinion, especially if they are someone in the news, a celebrity, a politician, that, you know, they have this extra weight with their opinions because of that. But we also need to teach them that that is a skill that develops over time. So it's part of the reasoning, it's part of the conclusions. And another important thing that I may have missed and didn't include in this template is it's okay to have different opinions. I think that is indicative of scholarly conversation, is to disagree, but we need to not personalize it. And I think, unfortunately, over the last several years, we've seen on TV time and time again, people with different opinions attacking each other personally. And that is just not right. We should leave the attacks on the argument, base it on the argument itself, not on the person giving that argument. So if you have an assignment or you are thinking about one where you want to solicit from your students editorial, I think those are excellent examples of critical thinking, as long as you provide the parameters and the expectations. And then the last one actually, C, proposed solution. Okay, so with critical thinking, up top, I didn't mention it, but you know, we want students to identify a problem or an issue, to investigate it, the background information, to learn more about its context, and then to propose a solution. That would be the conclusion. So it's kind of like full circle, right? It's closing the loop there. So that would be very interesting. That's where students can be very creative. But again, they need to be basing it on all the information that's credible, factual, that they've done their research on. And I've done a presentation on CQ Researcher. Some of you may be familiar with that. It is a library database we subscribe to. It is an excellent source for this type of thing. These are long reports on social issues, and they're broken down into compartments, kind of like we've attempted to do so here in this template. And one of them is the solution. It's the, here's what we think, here's how to address the problem. So that is another way that we can get our students thinking critically. And the last part, of course, is being ethical. We've told them to research credible sources. We've told them to take good notes and to include that information in their project, their paper, their presentation, whatever it is. So let us continue being ethical and give credit where credit is due. I think this provides a lot of food for thought for our students when we make them do that, because it's not just a checklist. Okay, I did it. It's actually proving that you've done the research, that your sources are credible, and that you've taken word for word facts from those sources, and you've incorporated in your paper, presentation, whatever it is. But we need to be ethical, and so it's also an important part. Scroll down a little bit more, Susan. And we have sources for that. We have a lot of sources for all these things. Again, this is meant to introduce this concept of a one place to shop, but we also would like to keep some depository in the future of good assignments that address these and other factors that we deem important at our college, so that faculty can come to us like we wish and peruse through a collection of assignments that other colleagues have used on campus that address this. There's no need to reinvent the wheel if we do not have to. So that is all I have to say. Are there any questions, any comments? If not, Susan?
Well, thank you, Jose. All right, going back to our the portal, our website. The next section is information literacy, the research process and the tools. Again, we have taken the basis for this from the information digital literacy skills that New Mexico Higher Ed Department has created. We have a similar table as to the critical thinking. Here are the 3 skills that relate to information literacy. The other one has to do with digital literacy. And we have some example assignments and how we can support those assignments. Again, it's just a quick table to help you identify things. I teach a series of 5 workshops on research strategies. It is student oriented. You are welcome to join anytime you want, but a lot of this information comes from those 5 workshops. We have recordings. We have a web page for that as well, which you're welcome to look at. But we have a process that has been set up that shows the students what the steps they need to go through in order to complete a research assignment. And then we have resources to support based upon those 3 areas, those component skills. And I've copied again what is up there in that table for each one of these. But this is the definition of research as inquiry. These are some of the example assignments and our library expertise. And then here are some sources here that you could possibly include in your class. You could send students to the web page, or if you only want to use one of these sources, like Jose was mentioning that we did a presentation on CQ Researcher. Well, you could embed that, or you could put a link to that in your class. If you expect your students to use that particular resource, this is a way for them to get an overview of what the resource has available for them. Same with all of these others. I teach 2 workshops that fall into this particular component skill. One is identifying your research topic, and the other is refining your research question. And then we have an additional presentation that talks just about writing a thesis statement. So these are all sources that resources you could provide, and they also are presentations we could provide either through Zoom, pre-recordings, or come into your classroom and talk to your students about it. And we support ourselves with the websites, but if it is something that the students need to access outside of class, then this is a good way for them to get there. The information structures is the same. Again, example assignments, the definition, and what we can use to support that. A lot of times we have additional handouts and assignments that are tailored specifically to each class. So putting a copy of one here is not going to be as useful, but we can talk to you about that. The authority and value of information. Jose talked about that at the end. That includes the citations, but also includes evaluating the resources and how students go about doing that. What's the difference between what he said was disinformation versus misinformation? So a lot of this is already in that template, but if you're looking for something very specific, and we have many of the resources that we already have available right here that you can embed or you can direct students to and things like that. Some of them are research guides, some of them are presentations, some of them are a combination of both. And then we also have sent you to NMSU, who has another very good live guide or research guide. And finally, there are some additional resources that you might find useful if you wanted to set up a library module in your class, or you wanted students to use this as a preparation for a research assignment. We have orientations, how to find the library databases, we even have a research guide on writing a paper, the steps to do that. I did a presentation on Turnitin that the video is coming, and we'll put it up here with a link to it. We have a website on plagiarism. I address it in one of the workshops as well. And then not just plagiarism, but how to avoid it, which includes how to quote, how to summarize, how to paraphrase, when you should use each, and how to make sure that you're doing correct in-text citations and things like that. And then NMSU also has a plagiarism research guide. But we also have a research guide on college success and gives a lot of tools for that. Studying, Jose gave a presentation. He also gave one on how to write good notes and outline. So all of these are sources that you can incorporate into your classroom or direct your students to these resources here, and they will have additional support in these areas. Now, that is based upon these two general education component skills, or skill components. But then we went ahead and identified some guides that might be useful to you in a subject. If you're teaching an English class, we have a research guide on English. If you're doing news and current events, we have a research guide for that. All of these things. And then we have class-specific research guides. These are web pages that are specific to a class, and they usually deal with a specific assignment, and we've curated resources that you would like your students to look at, or databases you would like them to go to. It is very specific to a course and an assignment. And you can see some examples here. We've done a few of them to see how the format might work. And if you would like one created for your class, just send us a request using the research guide request form. Next is our presentations. And again, we have many presentations. These are just some of them that would be specific to a classroom environment, because when we give presentations, sometimes they are more broad and may also include the community. These are ones that we feel are definitely very student focused. Our quick reference guides, and I'll stop right now in case someone has a question. I don't see anything in the chat, but if you have a question, be sure and just raise your hand or speak out and we'll stop. We've created these guides to help you embed or link to within your Canvas course, or if you have an electronic syllabus, you have a module a resources module you want to create or add to, there are various ways you can add our resources and our services to. The thing I must point out is that if you're going to add a video, and we have 2 video streaming platforms that you can attach, embed into your Canvas courses, you do need to have an account for that. And that if some resources that you are embedding, let's say you want to send students to a specific article in a database or a ebook in a database, they probably will be required to validate their credentials. But that's just a normal process that students who are using our databases do anyway. So these are all the different, and we've done, I've made graphics for you to follow where the things
Susan,
are.
quick question.
Sure.
Quick question. So, when you say they need to have an account, what do you mean? Should it be a different account from the
No,
DACC and MSU account?
you as an instructor, if you want to create a clip from a film, you need to create an account. It's like if you go to one of our databases and you want to save articles on the database platform, you need to create a specific account for you as a faculty member or a student, so that there's that space that's protected associated with your login. That's the same thing with the video streaming. If you want to use clips from a particular video, they need to have a place where you can save those clips, so you can then direct those students to the clips or embed that link to the clip in your Canvas shell or whatever you're using where you're going to embed it. So it's like that specific space that is yours for your resources from that particular platform. Does that make sense?
Yes, got it. Thank you.
And so these are step-by-step instructions a lot. There are things that we've directed you to other places because it's been written. I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. If the platform already has a good video on how to do it, I'm going to send you there. I'm not going to create my own video. It's just easier. But if you have any questions about any of these and you're having trouble, please contact us and let us know what how we can help you. And then the final section, and we're going to be wrapping this up, is the professional development resources. And we have a research guide on copyright, fair use, essentials, as well as NMSU does. And both of them cover some information that all faculty members need to know about using material that is not their own. And I recommend people go and explore that so they have a good understanding of what they can and cannot use in their classroom. We have also created a diversity, equity, and inclusion research guide, which includes resources that might be useful for you as a professional. A research guide on Zoom video conferencing. And then for those of you that follow or read the Chronicle of Higher Education, we do have access. We have a site license for that. So you can read articles beyond what you can get when you visit the website. You can actually view all the stuff that is paywalled, that you can't get to for free. And finally, we're going to be working on having a list of physical and electronic resources by topic. Could be online teaching, it could be specific pedagogies, it could be any of the topics that would be essential to professionals, to faculty members for teaching. And it's all going to relate to our library resources. So this is just a brief overview of what we have created to try and bring together our large amount of information that we have created over the past 3 or 4 years, especially in the last 2 years when we did an awful lot of electronic things. So we now have that available for just-in-time teaching, for just-in-time learning, and we wanted to make sure that it was in an accessible, easy to navigate and use location that you could access regularly and hopefully incorporate into your courses, or contact us if you're missing something. If we haven't covered a topic and you'd like it covered, we'd be happy to work with you. So I appreciate your time. And if you need to contact any of us, we're all here on the homepage. Myself, Jose, and Therese DeSimio, who's a librarian and also our library director. So any of us would be more than happy to answer any questions, work with you to add resources to your classes, come visit your students, have one-on-one consultations with them, or you, or both. Please come see us. Are there any more questions? Or any questions?
No, I just have a comment or recommendation that we are so much grateful for the speakers, especially for this great resource or information. I was a new faculty recently, or a few years ago, and all this structured information is very, very helpful, not only to the new faculty, but to the current faculty as well. And also the essential skills you have covered, I feel that I got them more because these are the skills that must be met. So you went out of the box, and I was able to get much more than I thought about. Otherwise, thank you. Any more questions from anyone to our presenters?
Thank you so much. Have a good, I guess we have one more session before lunch. The mini
Right.
session?
Right. We do have, before that, we do have the survey. Please remember to take the survey for a chance to win